All right, so this is my shooting guard rankings for 2023-2024 NBA season. If you saw my point guard video, um, you know, this is my shooting guard one. If you did not see my point guard video, you should go back and watch that. So yeah, let's get started here. We got number 30, got Malik Beasley. I know he's in a Lakers jersey here, but he's on the Bucks right now. I mean, I think he's a solid player. He's a good shooter, but that's really about it. So, I mean, definitely a solid role player, just not a great, starting option for you. Number 29, I got KCP. Much of the same thing. I think he's a better scorer than Malik Beasley, or he at least gets, he at least shows that he's a better scorer. I mean, I think Malik Beasley has a similar capability of scoring, just KCP actually performs better. So, yeah, number 28, I got Taylor Horton Tucker. He's a good scorer as well. I think he's still young, unlike KCP and Malik Beasley aren't exactly young anymore. So Taylor Horton Tucker is young, and I think he'll be improving, which is why he's ahead of those two guys there. Yeah. Number 27, I got Jalen Suggs. So I think he's a really good player. I think he will be a really good player. I really liked him in Gonzaga. He had a good rookie season. I think he's a solid player. The Magic have a lot of guards on their team, but I'm glad to see that Jalen Suggs is going to be starting for them this season, because I think last year Gary Harris still got a lot of the starts over a guy like Jalen Suggs, which did not make a whole lot of sense to me. But yeah, Jalen Suggs is going to be starting this year, so I think he'll be having a really solid year. Number 26, we got Quentin Grimes. So he did not start last season, but he's supposed to be starting this year, which I think is really good. I think he's a really solid player. It'll be interesting to see him in a starting role this year. Number 25, we got Spencer Dinwiddie. Obviously he's a good scorer. That's basically all he can do. But he could average 20 points per game for this Nets team. He does not have, a lot of. They have good players, but they don't have any ball dominant players except maybe the way Mikal Bridges has been playing. Last year he's a ball dominant player, and they have Cam Thomas too, who has his moments of being really good, but other times he's just inefficient. So Spencer Dinwiddie should be able to get a lot of shot opportunities and have a really good statistical season this year. Number 24, we got Kevin Huerter. He's a really solid player, really good shooter. He did really well in the playoffs last year, I think. Shooting the three ball, exceptional, which is basically his only role in this offense is to create himself some open looks, which he does. He does that to the best of his ability, and I think he's a solid shooting guard. Number 23, I got Ausar Thompson for Detroit. I wasn't sure if he was going to start or if they were going to do a duo point guard with Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, but they said Ausar Thompson is supposed to be starting for them. And I think he's really good. I think he will be a really solid player. I think his brother's probably better than him, but Ausar's the one starting this season and not Amon, so he'll get a better chance to showcase his abilities, especially on the defensive end. That's where he thrives. Number 22 is Terry Rozier, so he's obviously a really good scorer. Not much else there. I mean, he have an average 20-plus points per game, I believe, last season, but LaMelo Ball did miss half the season, and they didn't have Miles Bridges last year, who's supposed to be playing for them this season again after he serves his 10-game suspension. So I think Terry Rozier will not have the same season he did last year. Take a little bit of a regression, but still pretty solid. Number 21 is Devin Vassell. So he did really solid last year. I think he'll just continue to progress to that this year. He averaged 17 points per game last year, I believe, which is something I did not know before researching for this video. So that really surprised me there. 20, I got Benedict Mathurin. He was a rookie last year. I thought it was a really good rookie last year on both sides of the ball. He's a good scorer, good shooter, and I think he's a pretty solid defender as well. So because of that, I got him here at number 20. Number 19 is Derek White. So obviously, he was a really, really good defender last year. Really good for the Celtics in their playoff run. You know, he's a really good player. I don't know what else. There's not a whole bunch to say. He will be starting this year when he did not start last year. So that's something different. Yeah. Number 18, I got Tyler Hero. He's a really good scorer, really good shooter. I expect him to have a really solid year like he has been having. But yeah, he didn't get to play in the playoffs last year after the first round. He broke his wrist or whatever, or his hand or something. So it would have been interesting to see him perform in the playoffs again last year, but I think he's a really solid player. Number 17, I got OG Anunoby. Well, he's one of the better defenders in this league, and he's still really solid on the offensive side, and he's still young, so he can still be improving. The thing is, I would not be surprised if he was traded from this Raptors team by the deadline to a more contending team that really, really needs a defensive wing on their team. So, yeah, I mean, he's a really solid player. I just don't know if he's going to be on Toronto Raptors all season. Number 16, we got Jordan Poole. He's, obviously he scores points inefficiently, but he scores points. I think he'll continue to do that this season. I think he'll probably average 25 points per game this season on like 42 and 35% shooting splits, which isn't horrible, but it's definitely not good for somebody that is your leading scorer for your team to be shooting, poorly from the field and stuff like that. Isn't ideal, but this Wizards team isn't really looking to win a lot of games this year, so I think they'll be content with him at least scoring some points and, definitely be entertaining for fans to watch. Number 15, we got Tyrese Maxey. I expect him to take a big leap over last year. You know, he did pretty solid last year. I expect him to average 23 plus, maybe 25 plus points per game this season. Definitely should be helping them that James Harden is not on the roster, but I did not take that into account for the creation of this video. We made this before, in our rankings before the James Harden trade was announced. So I'll probably put him a little bit higher, knowing that James Harden was not going to be on this team. But yeah, I think he's still a really solid player and should continue to progress from what he did last season. Number 14 is Jalen Green, so obviously he's a young player, and I think he'll just continue to progress. And he did really solid last year, averaging over 20 points per game. I expect at least that. I probably expect him close to averaging 25 points per game this season. Maybe potentially being on the All-Star radar, but probably won't make it. Just probably will get a decent amount of votes. So. Number 13 is Anthony Simons. And this kind of sucks because I think he's a really good player. I think he could average 25 points per game on this Blazers team because they don't have a lot of mouths to feed on the offensive end. So, he should be able to get a lot of shots. It just sucks because he's injured for like a month now. So we can't really. We'll have to wait a little bit to see, how good he is, and maybe his injury will affect his playing abilities the rest of the season as well. And he's going to be hurting because his other guards like Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson are going to be getting more experience, so he might not have as big of a role as soon as he gets back, which is going to hurt him a little bit. But I still think he's going to be having a pretty solid season. Number 12 is Josh Giddey. I thought he was a really good player. He's triple double watch almost every night. He could average 20 points per game this season. I think he's a really solid player all around. Yeah. Number 11 is Austin Reeves. So, most of this is based off of the postseason run he had last season, which, was really solid. So, yeah, I think he could average 20 points per game for this Lakers team. He might potentially outscore LeBron in points per game this season, partly because of LeBron's minute restriction and stuff that they said he's going to have, which has not looked, has not been happening a lot so far. But if he continues to only play about 30-ish minutes a game, Austin Reeves is going to play like 34, 36, so he could average potentially more points than LeBron James this season. Number 10 is Zach LaVine. He's a really good offensive player. He's decent on defense. He's not horrible, but I mean, not nothing great on the defensive side. He'll average 25 plus points per game. He might potentially be traded this season as well. I feel like the Bulls should try to make some sort of deal with either Zach LaVine, Vucevic, or DeRozan at the deadline. Maybe all three of them, because me personally would not just want to be stuck in mediocrity, and I'd like to get something out of my star players before I have to lose them to free agency for nothing. So, yeah. Number 9, got Desmond Bane. He had a really good season last year, and I think we'll have an even better season this year. Obviously, he's still young, so he could be progressing still. And without Ja Morant playing for 25 games, Desmond Bane should be the focal point of the offense. So he should be averaging 25 plus points per game this season. Number 8 is Brandon Ingram. He's a really solid player as well. I think he'll have a little bit of a regression from last season because of the addition of Zion Williamson. Assuming he plays a significant amount of games, that will tarnish what Brandon Ingram is able to do on the offensive end a little bit. But he's still a really solid and really efficient player nonetheless. So number 7, we got DeJounte Murray. He's a really good player, really good two-way player, one of the better two-way players in the league. Get you a good 22, 7, and 7 easily on the season, probably. Maybe closer to 25 plus points per game this season, just because I feel like his progression and his chemistry this season, being his second year on the team, should be better than it was last season. So, just expect him to have statistical improvement over last year because of that. Number 6, we got Paul George. He's also one of the better two-way guards in the league. Obviously, we know what Paul George is. He should have a really good season this year as well. I'm not expecting anything other than an all-star appearance from Paul George this year, as long as he stays healthy. All-star should be easy. All-NBA is attainable for him, for sure, if he's able to stay healthy for the majority of the year. Number 5, I got Anthony Edwards. He definitely had a worse season than Paul George last year, probably, but because of his insane playoff run that he did have last season, and he looked pretty solid in FIBA play. So I think Anthony Edwards will take a significant jump from last year to this year. I think he could average 30 points per game this season and be an All-NBA player this season, without a doubt. Number 4, we got Kyrie Irving. Some people still have Kyrie Irving like low, like 7, 8, probably on this list behind people like Paul George. But me personally, I don't understand why people try to hate on Kyrie Irving. He's one of the best offensive players in the league. I mean, obviously, we know that it's Kyrie Irving. I don't know why people think because of his chemistry issue that makes him a worse basketball player. He's still a really, really good basketball player. Just might be a cancer to your locker room and stuff, but it does not change how effective he is on the basketball court when he does play. Number 3, we got Donovan Mitchell. I think he's really, really good. He had a really good season last year in Cleveland, being his first year there. I think he'll have an even better season this year just because he can still continue to progress. And I would not be surprised if Donovan Mitchell, kind of like Anthony Edwards, I wouldn't be surprised if he averaged 30 points per game and made an All-NBA team this year. Number 2, we got Devin Booker. So, he'll probably have a worse statistical year this year than last year because he has Kevin Durant on his team for the whole season. He has Bradley Beal on his team to take away some shots as well. But I think Devin Booker, he played really, really well in the playoffs last year when they had Kevin Durant. So if he can continue to play like he did in the playoffs last year, he could still average 30 points per game, even with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal on his team. Number 1, we got Stephen Curry. I don't agree with him being a shooting guard, but because of the ESPN rankings is what I used. The ESPN starting lineup projections at the beginning of the season is what I based this off of. So they had Chris Paul starting at the 1, so I had to have Curry starting at the 2, which just feels wrong. But he's still the best player at his position at shooting guard, and you know definitely would have been top 1, top 2 at least, top 2 at the worst, behind Luka Doncic at point guards. So yeah. And that is my video. Thank you for watching. If you've not watched my point guard video, please go back and watch that. And make sure to continue to watch my small forward, power forward, center rankings, and my bench rankings, and my top 100 rankings the rest of this week. And then, obviously I have my weekly NBA and NFL power rankings, so make sure to watch those videos as well. Thank you. That's all I have.